Hello, I'm Wine Guy Ty. Welcome to the Barrel Room. Today we're at the Swirl Around BC tasting event at the Sutton Place Hotel in Vancouver, BC, and my guest is Christine Coletta. She is the principal and founder of Okanagan Crush Pad OCP Winery in Summerland, BC, which was launched in 2010 and recently redubbed Haywire Winery, with a new tasting room construction completed, I understand. The foremost concrete fermenting winery in North America with an 18,000 case capacity. And under the OCP is the Haywire Narrative Freeform Wines and Bizou and Yukon labels. In 1990, Christine was the founder and original executive director of the BC Wine Institute, which is now Wine Growers BC, establishing BC's Appellation System. Very important. I want to touch on that if we can as well. Some exciting new developments there recently. Also the current chair of BC Hospitality Foundation and the director of BC Wine Information Center. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Did I cover everything?
You did. I mean, you know, you've been around for a while when your winery has initials, OCP, and everyone knows what that means, which is great.
Exactly. And I think to start off, Christine, I'll just tell you a little story. It was an epiphany moment for me. I think it was back in 2016. I was on Gravel Island at a BC little bistro, and somebody poured a glass of the Narrative Red with that old kind of bottle round circle label on it. And I had never tasted anything so interesting and fresh and unique for a BC VQA wine. And I thought, who is this? What is this? And that was what kind of made me pay attention to Okanagan Crush Pad. I believe it was a blend of Gamay and Syrah or something like that.
Yeah, it probably had a little Merlot in there as well.
I think so.
Yeah, but that was one of our signature red wines that we released, and we've been making it since 2010, and it's a huge success. And
still a huge success,
yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful wine. I want to talk about, your great winemaker, Matt, in a little bit as well. I noticed in my research coming into this morning and having you in my chair, you mentioned a singular moment in a vineyard in Leyte Valley in Chile, which convinced you to own your own piece of land and establish your first vineyards, which, through the passage of decades now, led to the production, which is now north of 45,000 cases annually, planted over 70 acres of vineyard activity.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It was really a very interesting moment. I was working with Wines of Chile at the time, and I was there regularly. And I'd been to the Leyte Valley 2 years earlier, and there was really nothing there. And then I came back with a group. I think I was with Anthony Gismondi on that trip. And they had planted about 10,000 hectares of vines. And they were all terraced and sloped to work with the aspect of the land. They hadn't bulldozed anything, and it was so magnificent and so spectacular, and it really inspired me to come back to the Okanagan and do something similar. Well, okay, I'll correct myself. I phoned my husband and said, we need to buy a vineyard in Chile. And he said, too far away, isn't going to happen.
The commute would be a little...
yes. And so I said, okay, how about the Okanagan? And he goes, all right, I'll do that, but not Chile. So that was really the moment when I was so impressed with what they had done in such a short period of time. And I really felt that for a while there, the Chilean industry was really on fire and moving forward very quickly and sort of changing their image from one of sort of bulk producer to premium. Yeah. And that really inspired me to come back to the Okanagan and focus on what I like to call Okanagan-inspired wines, as opposed to what we did in our formative years, where we were emulating different wine regions like Napa, Alsace, the Rhine Valley. So, there's all sorts of... I thought we had grown up to the point where we could proudly be Okanagan and aspire to do that.
Well, indeed, you have, I think, achieved far more than maybe even possibly the earliest dream. One of the reasons why I thought that was such an interesting story is I, too, was down in Chile just before the pandemic. In fact, I just got back the day before. They closed the airports worldwide, and I was in the Leyte Valley myself. And when I saw that, when I was down there, too, I thought this just such natural beauty of the place. Also the Elkie Valley, where they, which was very unique with the green parrots all over the place that move throughout the vineyards, so unique. But one of the things I did notice is just how kind of organic and raw and so on, how the viticulture looked, what the landscapes look like down there. And I think that is probably something that you, by way of the freeform label, for example, which I want to just touch on in a second, is a big part of your mandate or what you were looking at. So organic and biodynamic, possibly viticulture. Can you talk about that just for a moment?
Yeah, you're right. In those areas, especially in the Leda, they've worked around nature. They haven't tried to remove it. And so, hills and valleys and waterways are respected. And the vineyards are really beautifully sort of carved into the landscape,
right,
in a way that doesn't disrupt. And there's not a lot, it's not overly built up or manufactured, so it's very natural. So you've got these beautiful vineyards with a natural habitat. And based on what I saw there, it really sort of pushed us to look for a large piece of land in the Okanagan that had never been farmed, had never been touched, so that we could thoughtfully layer in vineyards and other agricultural projects without altering the feeling and the landscape or disturbing the natural habitat around us. So that is very much Garnet Valley Ranch, which we bought in 2012. And we had Dr. Pedro Pera come from Chile, and he helped us design the vineyard and lay it out. And from day one, it was all about what he likes to call precision viticulture, which means that you let the vines work in harmony with the natural surroundings. So no bulldozing. We had a mandate not to change the earth. We restored some waterways that had been bypassed on the property, so there's now a pond that's been restored. And the whole idea of that project was to just make sure that it was a one-of-a-kind place where when you go there, it really looks like the Okanagan would have 100 years ago.
Right. And I understand Matt Dumaine, now a decade-long chief winemaker at OCP, is living on the Garnet Valley Ranch, 320 acres or something?
Yes. He lives there. Yes.
Amongst the chickens and ducks and sheep and dogs and
Great Pyrenees.
Great Pyrenees, yeah.
So yeah, he lives on the property, and he's just so at home there. And it's wonderful to have his eyes on it. It's our prized possession, if you would. And having him live there and having that sense of ownership and pride in his place is really important.
Yeah, and still another important point would be Duncan Billing, who is your director of viticulture.
Yes. And
I wanted to mention this for listeners who may or may not know some of these folks. He worked with Matt in Central Otago.
Correct.
So, and joined the team at OCP in 2016.
Yes.
And so leading the organic direction for the 3 vineyards that you've established, the Switchback, Seacrest Mountain, and then as you talk about the Garnet Valley Ranch. So really understanding but also improving the biodiversity of all of the vineyards in the land.
Yes, and it's been a real struggle because we have limited options when we're faced with climatic adversity, and mainly in the form of bugs and pests. But it's hard work, and we've been diligent with it. We've also established another vineyard in Summerland called Monroe, and it is planted with Gamay Pinot and a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc. And so again, we've started out from day one as organic certification. So it's really, it's hard going to start farming that way.
Yeah.
But we're committed to doing as little as possible to interrupt our land and to keep it in the best possible shape that we can. So that's really the mandate.
I think it's very important and vitally important going forward. You are the current chair of BC Hospitality.
Well, I'm not.
Oh, you're not the current chair.
No, I'm not. I was on the founding board.
On the founding board,
yes,
okay.
so I am now finished my stint.
All right.
But I was involved in that organization from day one.
Yes.
And it does important work in the industry, supports people who are facing challenges due to medical issues that they face.
Okay.
And we've helped, I know that we've given over $1 million away to help people.
That's incredible.
Over the course of our work.
Yeah.
And it just keeps growing and growing. The demand is serious, and, wonderful, because we get hospitality people, hoteliers, restaurateurs, wineries,
right, and
are all supporting and chipping in.
On top of that, you are also a board member of Les Dames d'Escoffier.
Past board member of Les Dames. Yes.
And
yes.
Again, a foundation for women in food and beverage and hospitality.
Yes.
With bursaries and scholarships and so on.
Yes, and I remember when we formed that society, it was really interesting because there weren't a lot of women really working in the industry in high level positions, and most of them were coming out of the culinary world. So it was fascinating for us to all get together, and we were a small group. I believe there was a dozen of us originally, and now I'm sure there's hundreds of people involved in the organization. But it just goes to show you that women are really stepping up and playing a larger role in hospitality, wine, and all sectors, and culinary as well. Yeah,
well, it's a good point to make, and it's one of those things that I touched on briefly with my interview with Laura Catena, was women in wine. There's always been women in wine for centuries, but they've generally taken a backseat to the men.
Exactly.
Who are sort of front and center, but these days it seems like they're equal, if not equal partners, leading the way in some regards.
Very much so, and it's a lot of wine businesses were family-owned operations, with the male being the figurehead of the business, and that's changed significantly now. We have lots of female winemakers. There's so many female winemakers in Argentina and Chile. It's really exciting, and more here, and all over the world. And it's always a proud moment for me. We've had many female winemakers through our cellar, and most fondly for me, Jordan Kubik, who was our assistant winemaker, who went on to Lightning Rock and now has a winery called Pamplemousse Juice. And right now we have Kat DaCosta, and she's been with us for over 2 years as our assistant winemaker. And she's the person in our organization that is also leading our challenge for to reduce our carbon emissions.
Okay.
So we've given her the extra title of sustainability officer as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's just talk briefly here about you establishing the Appellation System in British Columbia. How important was that? What I'm seeing now, it seems like we're in critical mass, because up until very recently we only had a couple of sub-GIs, the Gold Mile Bench, and now I believe there's 8 or 9 sub-GIs listed, and that is all very important to understand terroirs or specific sites and terroirs throughout, particularly the Okanagan. But you established that. You set the precedent.
So when I was hired, the wine industry had just decided that they were going to adopt VQA standards. They looked to Ontario because Ontario had adopted a program a year earlier, and they wanted to make sure that whatever they established could be ultimately national. So we worked very closely with Ontario to establish the VQA designation. The key point for us was authenticity, because our history in the wine industry is not one of authenticity. So we come from an industry where blended imported wines with Canadian juice and all these contrived brands, that was our history and still is our history. So there was always a lot of confusion about what was a true British Columbia wine, and so we were working with VQA to hope that we could establish with consumers an understanding of what were authentic wines in British Columbia.
Well, and So as far as the sub-GIs moving along right now, what is the future? What does the immediate future look like for that?
Well, that's an important next step, is sort of carving the territory into sub-regions and dialing in and figuring out what we do best in each region. Mm-hmm. It takes a long time, because from the time you decide you're going to plant something to the time it ripens and you have it in the bottle, it can be 6 or 7 years, because you're needing to order grape plants, plant them, wait 3 years, make wine, let it age, then take it out to market. So it's not a process that happens quickly,
right?
But if you don't start, you'll never get there. And so right now we're at the place where, we're actually seeing wines. In our case, we have wines in Summerland from each of Summerland's 3 unique sub-GIs. And so we're now bottling those wines. We can start bottling those wines separately, so we can start seeing the unique differences between them.
An important step, for sure.
Yes, it's an important step, but it takes a few decades to actually drill it down. And some people would argue that it even takes centuries. So we're at the beginning stages of it, but it's super important for us to continue that work.
Mm-hmm. You have been cited by many as one of the industry's most innovative marketing experts, with so many awards to your name. How has marketing helped, not just with OCP and all of your brands, but our local industry as a whole? That's part one here, but also I want to ask about the initiative to brand and market outside of Canada, which traditionally hasn't been any kind of part of any mandates for our industry.
To answer your first question, I still believe we have a lot of work to do in terms of really defining in the consumer's mind what a BC wine is. It's so diverse. Mm-hmm. So you look at what's going on in Vancouver Island versus what goes on in Kamloops or Osoyoos. It's such a varied climate that it's very, very, it's unique. And, we struggled over the years, and we've said, the key word is diversity. But it's really hard to market that to consumers, because it's not like we're leading out with Malbec or Cabernet Sauvignon or one single variety, because we do so many things so well.
Yes.
In this territory.
Right.
So it's been a challenge to sort of create an identity for the region. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important that we focus on the fact that we're cool climate, the fact that we're making wine on the edge of what is possible. I think that's, and also not masking the wines up, letting them talk to the region where they're being mm-hmm. planted and where they're being made.
Yes.
And that's really what we do at our establishment. We're very, very committed to making wines as purely as we can.
Is that part of the mandate, or part of the reason why you have the different brands, Haywire, Narrative, and Freeform? And can you talk just a little bit about what differentiates those brands?
So Haywire is they're all varietal wines, and that was really what we started out with. And we layered in Narrative when we had a lot of contract growers up and down the valley, because we didn't have long-term contracts and we didn't own enough of our own land. So we could get Swirl 1 year from the spot market, and then the next year we might get Malbec, and it changed. Yeah. So we layered all those wines in the Narrative portfolio, and now we've had a chance to, now with our own vineyards and our own secured long-term contract growers, we can dial that down. And Narrative is always blends, and so it's essentially taking the best that comes in each vintage and blending it to, as you said earlier, the Narrative red. Delicious, juicy, fresh, vibrant red wine. And Freeform wines are all wines that are now made from Garnet Valley Ranch. They're organic certified,
right.
And they're low intervention. I struggle with the word natural wine because it's so polarizing.
It's a trigger word, I think.
It really is.
For good or for evil. I'm not sure. But,
I think a bit of both. I mean, you're either a lover or a hater.
Yeah.
And so we just always say low intervention, because we basically let those wines, hence the name Freeform, find their own way.
Sure.
And we say they're shaped by nature. So they'll vary vintage by vintage.
Yeah.
And they're just very pure expressions of a place and a time.
Mm-hmm. So coming back to the concrete fermenting part or aspect, again, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I happened to find myself with a friend traveling through Summerland, and I stopped in at OCP and had a wonderful comprehensive tasting on the crush pad outside there as some of those tanks were literally coming up the drive and being offloaded and unwrapped and ready to be put in the cellar. Mm-hmm. And you, being the foremost concrete fermenting winery in North America, is quite a thing. Why concrete, and can you just explain how that shapes the entire Okanagan Crush Pad experience for wine? And
so again, back to Chile, when I was working there, you would see all these old concrete fermenters, and they were using them in the 60s, and using them before stainless steel tanks were affordable and readily available.
So giant amphorae.
They were open top. So they were giant square open top concrete fermenters.
Right, I saw some of them when I was down there.
Over time and earthquakes, some of them had cracks, so they were epoxy lined. I was always intrigued by those. Also, we went to Zaccardi, and Zaccardi had this big secret concrete room that they were building at the time. Yeah. And we got to go and have a peek at that. Ooh. And so exciting. We came back, and it was time to order stainless steel tanks. And our consulting winemaker, Alberto Antonini, said, well, why stainless steel? Why don't we go for concrete? And really what he wanted to see us focus on was getting a better, richer mid-palate on the wines. Mm-hmm. So his feeling was that Okanagan wines had great aromas, and they had, they promised a lot, but then when you got them in your mouth, they kind of fell short. Mm. And so he said that we needed to work more on getting that mid-palate structure. And he felt that concrete did that, and concrete and extended lees aging. And the combination of those two things would give you that beautiful, rounded minerality and a juiciness. And we also wanted to make Okanagan wines, so we didn't want to be heavily influenced by oak. We do have some oak fermenters in our winery, but they're large format. Yeah. And food. Yeah. And so the main focus for us all was to make pure, lively, minerally, juicy wines, and concrete does that.
Okanagan Crush Pad also helps many smaller winemakers to produce batches of their own wine. Why was that important? And it seems very unique to have that ability to have put that into your model.
Yeah, it was unique here, but it wasn't unique elsewhere. So if you go to New Zealand is really founded on crush pads and cooperative winemaking. We wanted to build a facility, but based on my experience in the wine industry, I knew that every winery I'd ever worked for always built it too small, and then higgledy-piggledy added on after the fact. Right. So we thought, let's build a large facility and let's make it available to other people so that we can use the space until we grow into it. Mm-hmm. So that's exactly what we did. We had probably a dozen wineries making wine at our facility in 2011 when we opened. Mm-hmm. And every year from 2011 to 2017 we were full. And then at that point we started to increase our own production, mm-hmm. and slowly our own production overtook that of clients. But over the years, we've launched many, many wines in mm-hmm. British Columbia, and it was important for me to help them launch on a sound footing with mm-hmm. sound wines. Yes. Because there were so many times they were, amateur winemakers, and there's just so much.
Garagiste, but
yes, but there's so much to learn in the wine industry when you're starting out. Yeah. The regulatory, the market, the actual selling component of it, production, every single piece of it is it's massively exhausting, and there's not a lot of places.
And cost prohibitive. Too.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of places where you can go to get all that intellectual knowledge mm-hmm. in one place. So we thought, let's help people launch on a firm footing. And the number one thing we can do for them is solid wine without flaws.
So you have also recently launched a securities crowdfunded campaign to enable the public to buy shares for as little as $450. in a winery. It sounds very au courant, like a GoFundMe for a winery. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so we found a platform where there was a change to the Securities Act, which allowed you to sell and register smaller allocations. And so we basically launched a program last year. And the idea was to bring in smaller unit holders, but people who were really highly engaged in wine, mm-hmm. and were going to be out there as your frontline ambassadors. Mm-hmm. We've got 180 different shareholders through that program.
So far. When did it launch?
It launched last year and it ended in November of last year. Mm-hmm. And it went really well. It was a lot of work. It was super interesting to find out where people came from and what attracted them to the offering. Mm-hmm. But we just felt that it was more about getting a new pool of people that were highly invested in what we did. It's more like a super wine club, if you would, because they
That's a good way of putting
it. they get the same benefits as a wine club member, but they actually get ownership.
Yeah. And feeling like you actually have your
skin in the game, as they like to say.
Not just drinking the great wines, but...
well, and, bragging rights are huge, right?
For sure.
I own a winery.
Yeah. So there's recently been many challenging climate-related setbacks, which have caused an estimated 54% reduction in 2023 crops here in the Okanagan and British Columbia, and longer-term damage to 45% of the total planted acreage, with a projected $133 million in direct revenue lost this year alone. Wow, that's contentious. So how was 2023 harvest for Haywire, and what were the effective consequences for you?
I think we were probably down about 15%, but we were up 30% the previous year. So if you look at those two years combined,
yes,
it was not a negative impact to us. But all of our vineyards are in the Naramata Summerland area, and Naramata and Summerland were not really hit badly this year.
Too badly.
Yeah, and it's
but climate change going forward is obviously something that a lot of the wineries, especially in the Okanagan, are concerned about.
Very much so. And we could have a mild winter this year, but then we could have a dry spring, and then we could have a fire season again, as we did this past year. Mm-hmm. So that it's not just one thing. It's not that you have to just look out for harsh winter. We've got impacts and weather change throughout all the seasons. There's a lack of rain when we usually get rain. June was always our rainy month, and it isn't anymore. Mm-hmm. And so now this year it looks like November's our rainy month so far, and the weather's been quite mild. So you really don't know. You have to, in my mind, you have to be prepared for anything. You've got to be nimble, and you've got to act quickly. Mm-hmm. We were all really lucky this year. We got an early harvest.
Yes.
That means we get to turn the irrigation water on and water in the plants. Yeah. And they shut down properly, which didn't happen the previous year. So that's why we had so much damage. We had a lot of red wines that were still just picked, and the vines hadn't properly shut down before we got severe negative. I think it was down to negative 30 in some areas, and that's what did the damage. Yeah. We haven't seen anything like that for quite a few years, but we do see that from time to time in the Okanagan.
And those vines can't recover from that kind of damage, that you have to pull out the vineyard and replant.
And often it looks like the older vines are the ones that are hit more solidly than younger vines. Mm-hmm. And probably what's happened is over the years they've been worn down by winter damage, splits in the trunks, and then water gets in there, and then there's all sorts of thoughts that it's the older vines that finally went, all right, I give up. Right. I've been around for 15 years. You've thrown 4 or 5 really nasty winters at me. Yeah. I'm gone. And the younger vines seem to be withstanding better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that it's because they're different clones or rootstock. I don't think so. I think it's just that they're younger, they're more vibrant, they have more vitality.
Yeah, And that's probably part of a conversation that we'll have to have at another point because we just don't have time. One of the things, just before we wind up here, we're almost, we've been at it for 50 minutes here. The BC Wine Information Center, I wanted to ask about because you are the director of that.
Yes.
So what is the mandate there? And
Well, we run the VQA store in Penticton.
Right, lovely shop.
And we are now the only single standalone VQA store left.
In British Columbia?
Yes, because all the rest of them have gone to grocery. And it's a very important store because it's the tourism hub for our industry. And it's a meeting place where a lot of the people in our industry come together.
It's also a de facto tasting room.
And it is a tasting room, and we're there to share information with tourists. I was in the other day, and I must have been looking pretty shabby because nobody recognized me. But I got such a great reception from everyone there. They were so, how can we help you? What do you need to know? And, they're very engaged staff on the floor who are very well educated and know everything there is to know about the BC wine industry.
And are ambassadors of wine for BC.
They're totally ambassadors for wines of BC, and it's a wonderful store. And our mandate is we're nonprofit, so anytime we have proceeds, we hand it over and support industry initiatives.
I think that's great. I'm going to put a link to all of these things in the description for the podcast, including the Wine Information Center. And there's also there's an app, is there not, through Wine? Is it Wine BC?
Yes, they do have an app where you can go and source VQA wines.
So we'll put that all in the description. Well, we've come to that part of the interview, Christine, where I want to do something new. You will be my inaugural guest. And I'm calling this the Barrel Room Rapid Fire Round. So I'm going to ask a series of random questions. Your job is to respond as quickly as possible. You may also create your own response or simply skip to the next. We'll see what happens.
Okay, let's do it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Old World or New World?
New World.
USA or Canada?
Canada.
Napa Valley or Santa Barbara AVA?
Oh, Santa Barbara.
Black Sage Bench or Similkameen?
Similkameen.
Cabernet Sauvignon or Cabernet Franc?
Franc, all the way.
Yeah, me too. Willamette or Central Otago?
Willamette.
Semsov or GSM?
Ooh, Semsov.
Wine Flight or a 9-ounce pour?
Wine Flight.
Cork Closure or Stelvin?
Stelvin.
Stelvin all the way. Rosé or Orange Vino?
Rosé.
Wine Club or local shop?
Both.
Zibibo or Zinfandel?
Zinfandel.
Canned wine or Card Bordeaux?
I like Card Bordeaux.
Cool. Cigars and port or apple strudel and Riesling au Schlese?
The Riesling.
Wine patio al fresco or subterranean cellar?
Al fresco patio.
Blind tasting or masterclass?
Masterclass.
Cheeseburger and Malbec or tacos and timorasso?
I'm a cheeseburger girl.
Oysters and Sauvignon Blanc or charcuterie and Chateauneuf-du-Pape?
Oysters.
Me too. Bold and expressive or restrained and evocative?
Restrained. Evocative.
Ningxia or Lebanon?
Ooh. I have no opinion.
Okay. Maybe there's some homework there for you.
I think so.
Chef pairing or a la carte?
A la carte.
And finally, you're on a desert island. You can grow one grape only. What's it going to be?
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay all the way.
Chardonnay.
Very nice.
Very versatile.
For sure.
You can do a lot with Chardonnay.
You certainly can, can't you?
Yeah.
So many expressions. Well, thank you, Christine, for joining me here in the Barrel Room. It's been a delight to have you in the chair and to get into all of this stuff and to understand a little bit more about what you're doing. I will see you upstairs in the walk-around tasting event later on this afternoon. I'm sure there's going to be a flurry of activity.
Yes.
And there's a master class also that I'm looking forward to. And I think with that, we will say adios.
Adios, amigo.
And cheers. And
cheers.
And salud.
Cheers.
Special thanks today to Wine Growers BC, bcwine.com, Town Hall Brands for facilitating. You've been listening to The Barrel Room, and I'm Wine Guy Ty. If you like this content, remember to heart this episode. It really does help the algorithm, and you can also subscribe to this podcast for the low, low price of free, so you don't miss another future drop. Fun fact, if you hit the share button and copy link, many more humans can join us here as I raise my glass to you. Find The Barrel Room on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, and nearly anywhere else you get this type of content. As always, I appreciate you tuning in today. If you or someone interesting from the world of wine you know would like to be considered for an interview live in the Barrel Room, please reach out through your app or direct message me on IG at WineGuyTy. Remember, the best wines are those shared with friends. Let's share my next drop together. Cheers, santé, and salut.